Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show with your host, Bill Shelton. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
We've talked a little bit about the history of French Lick Springs and the resort and the town. Now we want to talk about a part of the history that probably hadn't been recognized as much as it should have been over the years. You know, seldom do you find a small town with two golf courses of the caliber of these, one Donald Ross design and one by Thomas Bendelow. And these gentlemen all share a common bond in that they shared in that early history as caddies and as golf course workers here at the resort. And they've got some really great stories about that. Over time, our golf courses here played host to several major events, the most notable being the 1924 PGA Championship held here at the Hill Course, won by Walter Hagen. In those days, the PGA, of course, was a match play after the qualification rounds. Became a match play event, and Hagen won 3-2, I believe, over James Barnes of England in that tournament. Then in later years, the Midwest Amateur was held here. That was back in the 1930s and 40s, considered sort of like the Pub Links or a major amateur tournament. You know, in those days, Dale Morey won the tournament here. He was a great amateur player. Ed Tutwiler, Bing Crosby played in the golf tournament. I think that was held in the month of April, and was always a great event to have here at the Hill Course. Later years, in 1957, the LPGA came here for the first time for a ladies' invitational, and then in 1959, 1960, we hosted actually the National Ladies Professional Golf Championship. Of course, we still, to this day, host some Indiana section events. We've had the Indiana PGA Seniors, we've had the Indiana State Stroke Play, State Match Play. Still hosts the biggest junior tournament in the state, which is the Indiana Age Group Championship. An important part of the history here at the golf course was the caddy. Back in those days, we had a staff of over 300 caddies. Some of those caddies were professional caddies who earned their living and fed their families by caddying here at the courses. Others were schoolboys, and I think probably a lot of the stories you're going to hear around the fire here today are from the boys who were in school at that time, or maybe just out of school, and some of the experiences they had.
A lot of us boys, and when there wasn't much golf going on, why, they had to do other things. Some of them was like playing mumble peg, and had some great mumble peg players around here. Another one was we used to pitch pennies to a line, but sometimes it get out of hand. You know, we get to pitching nickels and dimes, and that was a lot of money. But we had a lot of the hotel guests. They seen that and they wanted to play. So well, they're nice people. You know, we can't let them out. We let them right in there. Of course, they were unexperienced. Of course, it cost them to learn to play. You know, and we buy a lot of groceries with that money on the way home.
Bill talked about the games that they played, the mumbly peg with their knives and the pitching the pennies. I heard about a fight one time that an old caddy and a young fella had out in the street by the caddy house. This old fella was an experienced caddy, but he didn't dress the part very well. They said that he wore clothes that a beggar probably wouldn't wear, but he always had a roll of money that you couldn't get in your pocket. And one day he and one of the young caddies got in a fight, and they said it was such a fight that when the fight was over, that the old caddy had his shoe on, but his sock was off laying in the road. That's a pretty tough fight.
Wild Bluff at Bay Mills, voted best golf course in the UP. Golf and gaming packages available from $89.
On this caddying, when at times, like I said, when the Midwest tournament and things like that, they couldn't get enough caddies, so we'd go to schools, and but they would let the kids out of school to caddy because money is hard to come by back in those days, and they was always glad to let them out so they could make a few dollars.
My first day of caddying, and I can't remember exactly how old I was, probably 9, 10, in that neighborhood. But back then they paid 75 cents a bag, and they put me out double that day. And when I got in, I had the big red marks on my shoulders. But anyway, when they paid me the $1.50, I clenched that in my hand so tight that I run all the way from the clubhouse home. And so when I got home, I handed that $1.50 to my mother. And she handed me back a quarter. And you know, that was the biggest piece of money that I ever got my hands on, was that quarter. Because that $1.50 went for help put food on the table for the family.
Joe Lewis was always gambling with Pete Thomason, wasn't it, from Louisville. And they'd come up here, and Bill remembers this well. They stayed here all the time. And Joe Lewis was the only black that could play on the golf course. But he couldn't live in the hotel. He stayed at the Colored Hotel, West Baden, the Waddy Hotel. And another time, they was here on number 9, come up here on number 9, and Joe had a two-tone Cadillac, and he parked it out here by the kitchen by number 9. And they drove up there, and him and Pete come with, one of them was probably 6 or 8 feet in the cup, and the other one might have been 10. And they bet, I think it was $6,000 on that one putt. Pete putted, and he put his in. He was closer to the hole. And then Joe putted, and he missed it. And he was so mad, he walked over and teed that golf ball up and hit it right in the side of that new Cadillac. Just made a great big dent right in the side of it. But they took Joe for a ride all the time. There was different ones around here played golf with him, and he took well care of them because they beat him all the time. He hit long balls and everything. He's a good golfer. But these guys were professional. Like I said, they had caddies that never lost a ball and all them kind of things.
Didn't know how to be.
My uncle Arthur Carnes, they called him Big Red, and he boxed and wrestled all his life, and he run with Joe. And he was Joe's sparring partner. And he'd go over there, and Joe would just knock the socks off of him all the time. But he liked him, and so him and Arthur, they run around together and went pheasant hunt together to Jasper with Alvin Ruxer and all the people that had money, and they was good friends. But Joe was out running every day. He come by our house every day running. They followed him on horseback.
Yeah, if you look on the internet, there's a gentleman who has a website there with Bing Crosby's diary in it, and mentioned in that diary is the fact that Bing played in the Midwest Golf Tournament in 1946, shot 77-80, didn't play very well. I think those are the remarks he made.